Alright, you know the drill. Boys, it's time. It's freaking time. And no more jokes, no more crying for comedic effect. Or real. None of that today, because today we're finally going to review Inazuma 11 Victory Road. We can all agree on one thing here. It's been a long road. 9 years to be exact, full of waiting, delays, complete reworks and so on. Yet, ironically, just like one of the main themes of Inazuma 11, Level 5 never gave up, and we, the fans, didn't either. We kept on hoping, believing, supporting and dreaming that one day this game could be done, and now it finally is. So I won't be spending more time yabbing as I usually do in the openings. Let's just get right into it, cause, as you can see of the length of the video, there is a lot to talk about. So without further ado, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but this is my review of Inazuma 11 Victory Road. Inazuma 11 Victory Road takes place 25 years after the original Inazuma 11 story. We follow a boy named Unmei Sasanami who recently joined a new school named Nagamohara. Switching schools is a huge change in life, however, Unmei thinks he will be right at home here, as this school has no football club. Cause he is done with football itself and despises it after not being able to play it anymore due to a rare heart condition. However, football is not done with him. After a fateful encounter, his love for football is reawakened. He's not going to give up on football just yet, and so the rebirth of Nagamohara's football club begins. Spearheaded by Unmei and friends, they get a team together, overcome all obstacles thrown in their way, defeat every enemy that crosses their path, and work together to reach the very top of Japanese football. This story is as Inazuma 11 as it can get, in my opinion. It has a grim, dark beginning but hopeful rise up. Characters overcoming the struggle and standing united together to beat all odds. Of course, all related to football. It's a very inspiring story to follow and plays very well into the themes of Inazuma 11 as a series. Yet I feared going into the game that this story would be too familiar or even would stay too close to the original altogether. And personally, I don't want that for Inazuma 11. I want this series to move forward, even though going back to the original would make more sense as the series has been gone for quite a time. Thankfully, Victory Road squashed my fears very quickly, as the story has familiar themes, but it uses and presents them very differently. For one, we have a main character that doesn't like football, he despises it. Even when he comes around to get involved with football, we get a completely different role for the character as well than that we're used to. As Unmei can't play football, we get a young manager point of view who creates a plan and tactics for his team. But when it comes to expressing his love for football, he is also very different from previous main characters, who are always super over the top happy about it and such. Unmei is calm, someone who is very calculated when speaking. It's a fresh new perspective for a main character in this series, and I absolutely loved it. Though I do suspect that as an adult I was able to enjoy this story more than if I was a kid, because the pacing of the story is very, and I do mean very slow at the start. The story lingers a lot on Unmei's struggle with football and creating a team before we even get to play a football match. I saw a few people calling this a deal breaker, but in my opinion it was actually a very smart way to tell this story. Not only do we get a lot of details around Unmei, his friends, and the creation of the football club itself, but this hunger to get to the part where we start playing football works very well in the line with the story. As it progresses, I was just as much anticipating and eager to get to the moment to play football again as the characters themselves were. And once the story gets to the football, its pacing starts to pick up fast. So consider this a sort of preparation warning for going into this game. Because if you know this, then I doubt the slow start pacing will be an actual deal breaker for you. Again, I was more worried that Victory Road would depend too much on its legacy and be a copy-paste thing that we've seen before than anything else. And of course not just in the story but also in terms of characters. Yet thankfully that does not mean the legacy of the series should be forgotten. I just wanted to be honored while we move forward, and that is exactly what Victory Road does. We get to see big names from the past as side characters that are either get a very brief moment in the story itself or even just mentioned by name once or twice. The most noteworthy legacy character is of course Endo Mamoru. I mean, he is the poster boy of the series, so you can't completely wipe him away. But it is his son that gets the spotlight, and here he is his own character, not a replacement. And that is how it should be in my opinion. Victory Road as a game and story should stand on its own feet rather than depending on the past. Which is very difficult to do considering the legacy this series has, as it could have easily overshadowed it. But instead it stands on the sideline and leaves the floor for the new characters. Now when it comes to the new characters, I have to be honest, I really had to warm up to them quite a bit. Design wise I find them all to be great. It has that clear Inazuma 11 character design, which always surprises me that somehow even amongst a sea of characters, each character looks very unique. And thanks to the slow pacing at the start of the game, it gave us a lot of time with these characters to get a proper introduction and development, focusing a lot of time on each of their struggles and strengths, which were similar themes that we saw before in Inazuma 11. I mean, it still boils down to typical anime cliches, from a very forceful father wanting his son to obey his wishes rather than following his dreams, to characters doubting their own skills or seeking challenge in something new. Thankfully, there is a limit put on the amount of sub-main characters, because otherwise the opening would probably be too long, but more importantly, it does not overburden us with having too much characters, something that I sometimes found rather annoying in the original series. Having characters fighting for some time in the spotlight is never a good thing, but Victory Road really managed to avoid that and really balanced each character out in the opening of the story. Now, what I did not expect from the story was the visual quality. Every in-game scene looks fine and is fully voice acted, and these actors did a really good job, but I was completely caught off guard by the cutscenes that this game has. In the trailer it was mentioned that Studio Mappa would make the animated cutscenes for the game. Now, it's not rare to have anime cutscenes in a game. In fact, JRPGs it's rather common, but personally I did not see it as a big deal. The series itself also had small quantities of these awesome anime cutscenes on the DS, so keeping up the tradition is good, but again, I didn't think much about it. However, naming these cutscenes just animated cutscenes is definitely an understatement. There are loads of them here, and some of them are almost anime episodes long. And Studio Mappa truly cooked when it came to the animation quality, making them absolutely treats for the eyes. And as a fan, I couldn't stop smiling and enjoying these cutscenes. It's the closest we will get to a modern Inazuma 11 anime right now. But more importantly, they really strengthened the storytelling and put some spice into a slow pacing story. It's also very consistent throughout the entire game, rather than just at the start. It's always there at key moments of the story to elevate it beyond a point I honestly rarely see in gaming. And that is not to downplay the fine art style this game has outside of these anime cutscenes. The transition between them is not jarring at all. In fact, it actually connects seamlessly with the anime cutscenes, as it also has the same bright color visuals and detailed animations. Truly, it's a leap forward for the series, even though I personally never minded the graphics of the DS era. But if it had to make this leap forward into the 3D space, this is what I envisioned it to be, and I absolutely loved it. Now then, let's talk about gameplay. Personally, that is what I'm here for, the gameplay. Yes, I want a good story, and we got one, a really good one even. But considering the development hell this game got out of, I would have settled with just good gameplay. If any aspect could be good of this game, it should have been the gameplay first, as it's one of the most uniquest take on football as a game. And I want to see this formula continue, to evolve, to progress, and hopefully reach a new group of people so that we can enjoy this series together for a long time. In Inazuma 11 Victory Road, we play football in a mix of action and turn-based strategy. Each of these two aspects is layered with a decent amount of smaller aspects that determine failure or success on the field. Yet, despite its drastic difference between the older games, it manages to capture that spirit and fun factor of Inazuma 11 perfectly. However, just like the story, the gameplay switched things up a bit and changed something we're very familiar with into something that looks very familiar, but is new and different. And in my opinion, some things changed for better or for worse. Right off the bat, the biggest change from the demo is that understanding the basics here of the game is made a lot easier. The main idea here is still playing football, and some of the basic rules from real football is found here as well. In fact, compared to what is standard in Inazuma 11, Victory Road stays a lot closer to real football. Duels still happen on the field between players when they get into each other's range. Before, this was where the game usually paused and where you got to make tactical decisions. Now you still make such decisions, but in real time and with a timer on it. You can opt to try past the player with a quick dash or pass the ball to one of your teammates. But sometimes that doesn't do the trick, the player is too good and you still have to get past him or have to stop him. So in that case you can fall back on Hisatsu techniques. This is where Inazuma 11 mostly differentiates itself from other football games, and series for that matter. It are special moves that gives players these abilities to literally shoot fire. Some things like mountains, drones, complete fortresses, or godlike beings to pass the opponent, to take control of the ball, or to stop a shot. In other words, it dials the game of football that we know and love up to 11 and makes it, in my opinion, absolutely brilliant. However, this is one of the many aspects where Victory Road decided to divert from the original formula, but in a good way in my opinion. Mainly because the usage of set moves works a lot different here. They got rid of doing moves based on a stamina bar for each individual player. Instead, throughout the match, your team shares one stamina bar called Tension, which you have to build up during the match itself. To gain tension points, you have to actually get into duels with the opponent and beat them without special moves. Now, this new shared stamina bar did not bring a ton of balance to the game itself, as when you are overpowered you can still body slam teams by sheer numbers during duels without using special moves. But in terms of gameplay, I noticed it does demand more attention from me because I still need to actively do duels and win them, because gone are the days that players will automatically fail to instigate duels because of low stats. Another major change in my opinion, and a really good one at that, is how shots at the goal are determined to be blocked or going in. Again, in the old days it was spamming shots until the keeper was out of stamina. From there it was easy to score and win without a problem. In Victory Road, when you get into a scoring position, time slows down and both sides get time to prepare for the shot that is about to happen. For the attacking side, it's mostly overlooking the situation to see if a chain shot is possible or decide what special move to use. For the defending side, it's time to get into position, place the players in way of a shot or of a pass, and determine how to block the shot. You don't have infinite time to do this, and depending on the player or AI, you have more or less time. But overall, there's enough time for you to plan things out. After that, everything will happen. The shot will take place, defense will do its job or fail at its job, and then it's up to the goalkeeper to use a special move to block it or just use brute force to stop the ball itself. Now, as mentioned before, back in the day, this was a little bit different. Goalkeepers had their own stamina bar, and it was your goal to deplete it as fast as possible to make winning easy. Here, the goalkeeper still has its own stamina bar, but it resets after each time you score as it's been depleted. On top of that, the stamina bar translates to points which players must boost with aimed or timed shots or special moves. The goalkeeper, however, can use his moves to compensate the point lost when blocking a shot. Of course, stats still matter here, and with level advantage you can still stomp enemies even when the leveling balance mechanic kicks in. Yet it's still a lot better than it was before, where there was nothing to do but wait till it's all over while scoring mindlessly goals. Because keep in mind, you use a lot less special shots than back in the day, so depleting a goalkeeper's stamina bar is mostly done by making good basic chain shots with the right characters. So you still have to keep a little bit of tactic in there despite stomping the enemy. Of course, you won't be stomping a lot of opponents during your time in story mode, because the aim is to become the best football team in Japan, and to do that, you have to beat the best. So, how are you going to defeat them? Of course, by training. Lots and lots of training, which in Inazuma 11 boils down to grinding. A lot of grinding. One of the many ways to grind XP together for your new players are these new and improved minigames that can be found throughout the entire story mode. In a short amount of time, you are allowed to earn a lot of XP for your team based on your performance. Side missions is another way, which is mostly backtracking missions, which is nothing special, but it does do the trick and offer some fun moments, good XP rewards and equipment. And last but definitely not least, play matches. A lot of matches will help your players to improve and to gain items, which in turn can be used to buy equipment like boots, gloves or charms. All of them, of course, boost certain stats. And this is the moment where I would argue that the game diverges in two directions that I would debate as being not good or even bad. Because the level grind in the story mode hits a very nice sweet spot. It's fun and the progression feels rewarding. But outside of the story mode, there are a lot of modes you also can play, and there it's not that much fun. It hits no sweet spot and the rewarding feeling is very absent. And that is because of many factors. Maybe it's just because this is the first generation of all these new game mechanics, or maybe it's a remnant from the bad game development hell that this game came out of, or maybe it's just bad design choices from the start. Whatever it might be, the game definitely has two sides when it comes to the gameplay and how it balances it overall. As mentioned before, the story hits that sweet spot for most of the time where it's required of you to train a little bit from time to time, but where progression is very noticeable. Again, supported by the story build-up of this team, it's exciting and fun, slowly seeing it all come together. But whenever I played anything outside of the story mode, this effect wore off rather quickly, and a lot of weird and bad choices came to the surface. The first thing that immediately comes to my mind is that I would deem not just as a bad decision, but a terrible one, is the way you recruit players and build your team outside of the story mode. And that covers Chronicle mode, online, or everything else in between. In my opinion, the aspect that is the most fun in Inazuma 11 is making your own team. Getting your favorite players or focusing on the theme, or just throw random stuff together and see if it works. Whatever you want, you had full control over it and what you wanted to make out of it. Now in the story mode, we do get a degree of that freedom. Of course you have story characters, but surprisingly they do leave a large gap in the roster for you to fill in with recruitable characters. Be that from the story itself or from the school and people around it. You can even make your own character and play a role in the story as well, which is fantastic. But at some point we have to step out of the story mode and play something else. Most of us will probably boot up Chronicle mode at that point. There we get to experience all the matches from the previous games, and I do mean all of them. Plus we get to recruit all these characters. In the trailers they mentioned that there are 5,000 plus players. Yes, that does sound insane, and it's apparently all here. Think of the options, the teams you can make. In theory, everyone should be able to make whatever kind of team they want. So how do we recruit all these players? Is it just like before, where you have to beat the teams, pay a scout to recruit players, or do we have this recruiting roadmap again? Unfortunately, none of those. You get players via loot boxes and random drops during matches, and as a reward for winning certain matches. And if that wasn't bad enough, we got a rarity system on top of that, which makes everything just so much worse. Let's say you want a particular player. Well, you get at least one full loot box drop for free at the start, but no luck, unfortunately. Maybe you will earn more loot boxes by playing the game. So let's do that, because after all, you can recruit the player you want by playing the game. Specifically, Chronicle mode. The loot table there is determined by which road you pick. Now, after beating a team, you do get a couple of drops from the team roster of players, but the player you want is from a particular team further down the road. Thankfully, all other players drop randomly in the match, so with a bit of luck, you might get the player you want before having to focus play a particular team multiple times in a row. And thankfully, luck is on our side this time, and you get your player. Great! Now you can add them to your team and train them in the way you want them to be, but it's a common rarity of that player, so you must upgrade them. Higher rarity means better stats. It's something the game tells you. Yet that requires a lot of items to do so, which drop randomly as well. But hey, you scrapped by and got the items that the player needs to become a legendary rarity of it. Finally, it took a couple of hours of grinding, but you made it, and now the leveling system works against you. Because while rarity is great and all, during your grinding you get to a point where you need to play against higher and higher levels of teams, and there the higher level makes more of a difference than the rarity. So all the time you invested in your favorite player is not just wasted, more importantly, the rewarding feeling is completely shattered, as that is by design of the game itself. Because now it's useless compared to other lower rarity players. They not only leveled up faster, but their base stats are still higher than your low level rarity player. So you either have to give up on this player or try to get a lower rarity of that player and start over. Gaining high rarity players felt like a loss, not a win. Upgrading players seemed only a good idea when players are close or at the level gap. Otherwise the grind would be so much longer compared to a lower tier player. And playing against the strongest opponents is in your best interest, because there the most XP is to be gained. Overall, as I was making my team, I constantly felt constricted in choices. While in the past, it was fun to take a new player into your team, leveling him or her up until it fitted into the main squad. Now it's just a long drag, just to get a particular player before even getting to level them up. Because even when you get to the point to level them up, it's still a bumpy ride with other design choices that make things a longer grind, or having to do things you actually don't like, or worse, even completely stop you from making choices. Moves don't drop anymore as manuals that you can learn to players. Instead you gotta buy them from one of the many stores in the game. Each of course having its own currency, which is connected to a completely different mode. So if you want a particular move from the multiplayer store, you must play multiplayer, like it or not. In rare cases, you can get lucky and get the currencies needed from the in-game loot boxes to get the particular move, but that's not a proper way to grind or get your move, let alone upgrading it, because then you need multiple copies of said move. So as someone like me who doesn't care for multiplayer, all the moves and items in the multiplayer store were basically locked for me. But sure, whatever, there's still some decent amount of moves to be found in other stores. But weirdly, not all of them. Actually, it's a lot less than I expected, considering so many moves exist in the Inazuma 11 series. Again, not just limiting the choices, but if there are particular moves you like, you are forced to use certain players that come with those moves by default. And of course the question is, if that player drops for you sooner than later. It's just a complete mess, and you go from here into another mess, and another one, and another one. I could go on for even longer than this. Like how the big loot boxes can be earned in-game, which is great, but it's a very rare drop and only for higher difficulty matches. There's a town building mode, but it's heavily underused as the currency never dropped from me in any single player mode. But the biggest mess, and the one that I'm truly the most disappointed by, is the Chronicle mode itself. As mentioned before, the mode promises to replay all the matches of the Inazuma 11 series, which is just a dream come true. Especially after the fact that we got a great new story for Inazuma 11 that we can add to the others. And in the trailers it looked exactly like that. We followed Victorio, who goes back into time to witness the great football heroes of the past and unite them to save the future. It's a simple but good setup to introduce you, the player, to Chronicle mode. For some it might be nostalgic, but personally I feel no nostalgia for this whatsoever. I treat it like I did in the other games as well. It are competition routes to complete, gain rewards and have fun with the gameplay. In other games, the competition routes were the endgame after all, and in my opinion, Chronicle mode is this game's endgame outside of multiplayer matches. The first few matches are of course really exciting. Think of all the possibilities that lay open in front of you. All these teams that you can face, all this content after the story mode. You even get to use your story mode team, developing them further right where you left it. And the reality of the counterproductive grind that is waiting for you hasn't settled in yet. They even went the distance to implement story bits to these matches, though they are very simplistic, and if you've never seen the anime or played the games, the story told here will be a bit of a mess and not really connect at all. But all in all, the start is really good and exciting. a lot of content is waiting for you, and as a fan, you can experience your favorite era of Inazuma 11. This experience will, however, turn sour. Ignoring the design flaws behind creating and developing your team for a moment, this mode has its own fair share of problems. First of all, not all routes are unlocked, which I can understand from a story perspective, but unlocking all of them is a huge grind. You first have to start and complete the first Inazuma 11 competition route, of course. Think of Royal Academy, Zeus, those kind of teams. But you don't have to beat them once, you gotta beat them twice. One time at the story mode difficulty, and then right after that, the route unlock difficulty, which is a slighter higher difficulty that slowly increases as you progress on the route. Now, if you use your story mode team, this is not much of a problem. I considered creating a new team for this mode, but considering the grind this game became, I am glad I didn't. This mandatory second match to unlock the story further truly was getting on my nerves anyway. It pulls the handbrake entirely on the story pacing, but worse, as you progress, the difficulty ramps up, and you will reach a point, if you used a new team, that you can't beat the second match. So you're either forced to play with your story team to get past this, or accept that there is an even longer grind waiting for you to get your new team at the level to beat the second match to progress. This artificially stretching out of the game is for no good reason other than to keep you playing, as matches can take up to 10 to 15 minutes, and each round has roughly 30 to even 40 matches to reach just the end. But of course, that is not the real end, because there are 2 higher difficulties beyond this as well, which is where you get the items required to get the best players or loot boxes for materials. After spending hours in Chronicle mode, it slowly started to feel like I was playing a daily mobile game than an actual game. Yes, matches are fun, the gameplay is good, but not in a dose like this. I got burned out. There was no rewarding feeling that kept me going, and the love for the old series couldn't carry me through it at all. Because I'd rather play the old games at this point, where I got the entire story over a very watered down version, and nothing stopping me to progress every other match. And that feeling just sucks, especially considering that the story is absolutely great. The new gameplay, I absolutely love it. The art style and graphics is a huge update, but the moment I stepped outside of the story mode and delve into the endgame like Chronicle mode, it becomes a mess. A very grindy mess. And yes, as a veteran Inazuma 11 player, I want to grind, to get a team together, but it's not a fun grind. There is barely a rewarding feeling to find here, be that improving your team or even just to unlock a player. It's just playing tons of matches in a row, just hoping you get some good items, yet knowing you probably won't be getting what you want anyway. And at some point, I just couldn't care anymore. I want to care more, and I would have if the grind was designed to be fun, not as a mobile game app. The nerve that they dare to ask €70 for this is insane, because it's one half of a brilliant game and another half of a grindy mobile game app. And that leads me to a recommendation I am not happy to say, because I do not recommend Victory Road at this price tag whatsoever, not even if you're a fan that is on the fence about it. Don't misunderstand me, the story mode is in my opinion absolutely great. I really loved every second of it, which was a good 25+ hour experience. The gameplay is excellent, and that was part of the reason why I was able to grind through so much of this game. And I know I will come back to this game once in a while, still sharpening my team and enjoy this gameplay like I did with the old games. But considering how the game is designed and treats my time, I would not call my experience worth a €70 price tag. It's closer to 50 or even 40. You know, like how all the other level 5 games are priced. I can imagine that if you are a fan of Inazuma 11, you paid this price for it. I did myself as well, but I do consider my loyalty to be paid off. But if you are not a fan or are on the fence about playing this game, the original price tag of €70 is just too high to take a chance on it. If it was lower, it probably would make people more willing to take this gamble. And when it is lower, again around the €50-40 price tag, I highly recommend you taking this gamble, because it's a great football game and a lot of fun, especially if you like anime.